Hi. So today we're going to do the fourth match in Bryan Danielson's AEW match catalogue, where we're going through every match in chronological order. And this one is, I've just finished it, is on an AEW Rampage buy-in, which I forgot those existed, to be perfectly honest. But it was like a pre-show for the TV show instead of a pay-per-view. It was weird. Well, on the pre-show of all matches, and I cannot believe this is on a pre-show, even when watching this, I thought this was not right. Bryan Danielson, shock, versus Minoru Suzuki. That's insane as a pre-show. That's nuts. I can't believe that. Yeah, I really can't believe that. And I'll be straight up. I know of Minoru Suzuki. Known about him just that he's a madman. But I have not really seen a lot of Suzuki stuff. I've just kind of just knew about his existence and just admired how just much of a madman that man is. And just impressed by how he's still going at this age to that extent. So this is the first true, I feel, match I've watched the Suzuki. I've watched him versus Jericho and a multi-mans, and I'm not judging Suzuki off the Jericho matches past 2024. You know what I mean? I'm not doing that. So with this match, I watched it on the YouTube, so they had the hype package, and it was just basically an announcement because people wanted to fight Suzuki, and this is like a big thing. Apparently these two fought in New Japan. I didn't know that. And obviously Bryan was a lot younger, so he's, just a whole thing of, I've learned a lot in that time. And the entire match, the entire vibe of this match felt like a master and a student finally coming at it, and I really liked that vibe. Suzuki's just, I don't know how to describe that man. That man is a pure, insane person. At this point, this is in 2021. So he's about 50, he's over 50 years of age. About 52, 53. And I cannot believe how, one, the shape that man's in this match, two, the stuff he performs, and three, just everything about Suzuki. It's just, I'm enamored. I think he's like the coolest guy ever, and let's come in the ring with Bryan Danielson. I feel like this is a perfect example of a match Bryan left WWE to do, and I love that. I really enjoyed this one. The match started with basic, just traditional wrestling holds. There's a lot of lockups and stuff, and it eventually got to a point where rope breaks were being used. Now, they started, when they originally done the first real chop and kick off they did, which, bear in mind, Suzuki's whole vibe, from what I gather, please someone tell me if I'm gathering my Suzuki information correctly, and Suzuki's chops, it felt like a whip. Not like in the sense, it wasn't like a traditional chop like has, you traditionally see from a Gunther, for instance. No, they were like a whip, and I really like that. They look nasty. And Bryan's kicks are phenomenal, but they seem a lot, there's so much weight to them. You really feel like this in this match. And Suzuki, this whole match has the basic, not story of the match, for lack of a better term, but the basic, just, I don't know how to describe it. Let's say story, is whatever Bryan throws at Suzuki, Suzuki will not, it's an immovable object. And Suzuki will laugh it off. He's thrilled. He loves this. And I loved how he just portrays all that. I don't think Suzuki likes wrestling. I think he just loves to fight. So they do the whole thing where it's the chops versus the kicks. And Suzuki's starting to feel it, as is Bryan. Suzuki just throws an elbow. And Bryan just goes flat. And it's like full on hits him in the face. He's cut open a tiny bit. The crowd are absolutely loving this, by the way. It's phenomenal, honestly. What an event. I didn't expect it to just be this fun. And then Suzuki's not even I don't even feel like Suzuki's a heel. He's just a psychopath, and that's the greatest thing. So, Suzuki's done that to Bryan. Bryan, after this point, fired up, so he just starts kicking Suzuki everywhere, gets him in the corner, and starts doing the chops and the kick stuff. And they go out the ring. Suzuki pushes Bryan into the post, injuring Bryan's shoulder. And then the first 10 minutes of the match, it feels like Suzuki's just brutalizing Bryan. It's the point where, he's standing over him, kicking his head, disrespectfully, trying to, enrage Bryan. That's what it feels like, Suzuki. It doesn't feel like it's Suzuki, that's what I'm saying with the heel stuff. He doesn't feel like a heel. He feels like he wants, it's like in a respectful way, he's being disrespectful. Like, Suzuki just wants to enrage Bryan to see his full potential, and I love that. And I really do. I feel like, for someone like a Bryan is like, he's known, how everyone knows how good Bryan Danielson is. So for someone like Suzuki to kind of go, okay, everyone knows my reputation, and I know your reputation, let's get at it. And Bryan's treating it as like a traditional wrestling match, and he's throwing a lot at the wall, but Suzuki's like, I want more, like, it's non-stop. And Bryan's like, at the start, Bryan's thrilled. You can tell he's just got a big ass grin on his face when he walks in, but then throughout the match, he's like, he's sharing, he's selling the emotion of, I like this guy, like, after the elbow, that pisses Bryan off, so he starts getting a bit enraged, and it's just like, he won't give in. It's a true, just bite down and go for it, and I love that. I really do. Suzuki plays his part perfectly. He's fun. He's so fun, but also the sense of, you get like, this is not a malice thing. There was no like storyline going into this. It is just a time capsule of like two legendary wrestlers. And Suzuki's whole thing is, I want the best out of everyone. I want brutal matches, and I need to watch that Jon Moxley match because good God. So stuff like this, it just works. Bryan does eventually get to the point where he gets fired up. There's a point where Suzuki's kneeling in the ring, and Bryan kicks him in the chest, and Suzuki just looks at him, and he just goes, no, more and more and more. Like, that encompasses everything with this match. Then Bryan they do the stuff, like the chops and stuff, and then Bryan towards gets taken down by Suzuki. Suzuki's just basic martial arts of reversals, just how he moves. There's a point where Bryan's got him in a cattle mutilation or something. He's got him in some sort of lock, and he just flips over to gut the ropes. I love this bit because, like, Bryce Remsburg's the ref, and he takes it away, and Suzuki stands over. And then Bryan, like, they're trying to argue, and Suzuki just picks him up by, like, the shirt, and then just puts him and starts straightening him out. And it's just like, it's just fun. Like, I just love stuff like that. I thought Suzuki was going to do that I Have Until 5. You know, Bryan's thing from ROH. And he never, but I feel like he could have, and that could have been really fun. There's part of them, the Bryan's knees and just kicks. It feels like they don't really do a lot of unique moves. It's not the match for it. The match is purely about grit, determination, and just endurance. And I love that. I really enjoyed that. They didn't need to whip out ridiculous new moves, you know, ridiculous sequences. It's not the fastest pace of match, but the guy's like 53, so I'm not expecting that. Suzuki's brutal. It's brutal. Every single move has weight. In this entire match, every single move has weight, and it's the exact way to go. Bryan gets this thing, and Suzuki, like, he started doing the kick, and Suzuki does fade a tiny bit, but then he stands up and goes, rah, you know, does that whole resilience thing that he does it to Bryan. And then Bryan's on the ground, and Suzuki's hitting him with the kicks. And he does one, and Bryan does the resilience of getting up, and the crowd loses it. Second time, he loses it again. And then he does it a third time, and Bryan goes to do it, and he just flops. So Suzuki puts, like, the most disrespectful pin, and Bryan kicks out at 2. Oh, it's so cool. And then I think this is where the final third of the match starts, the final stretch, where Bryan just gets Suzuki, like, they start doing the exchanges to go head to head and stuff, screaming at each other, chop to kick. But then Bryan starts flurrying the kicks, well, because he's enraged by Suzuki at this point. It feels like Bryan's whole reputation and status is something that is getting questioned by this, and Bryan won't take that lightly. The character and just guy we know of Bryan doesn't take that lightly. He knows his status and he's proud of that. So I love the fact that he does get enraged, and I love that. And then when he does kick the head in, I love that. But that was earlier on. I just love when Bryan kicks the head in. And so Bryan, the basic finish is Bryan just gets Suzuki in the corner, starts absolutely kicking him everywhere, as you expect, and gets the psycho knee and gets the pin. Suzuki goes out like a light, and then, the crowd throughout the match was phenomenally on top. I really enjoyed this. Is Miami, I think. And I really enjoyed how, hyped they were for this match. To be honest, I feel like this match may sound... descriptively quite plain because I'm just saying kicks and chops, and there's nothing wrong with that. I feel like this is a case of you need to watch it, and bear in mind, this feels like I've never really watched Suzuki. I've mentioned that, and obviously I'm a Bryan fan, so I'm gonna love this. But I feel like I don't want to say if you're a Suzuki fan you'll love it, but I imagine you will. It's just a fun match. Honestly, I really enjoyed it. I'm still baffled it was on a pre-show. It was phenomenal. I thought this was excellent. Even midway through the match, Taz goes, if you're watching this on TV and not YouTube, you're an idiot because you're missing out one of the greatest matches I've ever seen. You're a dumbass. That's what he says. Oh, I love it. And then just the entire match, everything about it just had, like I said, there was so much weight in everything. Suzuki, I love this guy already. Like, yeah, I was a fan of just the guy got, like, at, 57 he is now, going on fucking bullet trains and just fighting on stuff. He just likes to fight. And the more I learn about the guy, I'd watch the small little documentary on him and the hype package, and I just love this guy. And this is kind of the stuff I'm looking forward to with the Bryan stuff and this Bryan series. And I love that that's happened for someone like Suzuki. I can't wait for more stuff like this. I can't. I really enjoyed this one. I really did. And, like, after the last one where I thought it was a bit too chaotic, this seemed really good to just sit down, like, not too much, but everything was perfect. That's exactly what it feels like. Everything was, like, tuned with perfect detail. There couldn't have been much more. Like, for everything they wanted to do, they nailed it, right? It didn't feel like, oh, they wanted to do this, but they just didn't sell this right, or didn't hit this right. No, it feels like everything was hit right, delivered right, everything, and they set out exactly what they want to do, and I love when stuff works out like that. Like I said, Bryan got the win. And I thought, I don't really know Suzuki, so I don't know if this is going to be a respect thing or what. It feels like it's just a basic respect, like, given if you beat Suzuki. But I don't know. I'm going to watch more. Please recommend me some Suzuki matches besides the Jon Moxley one, because I'm watching that. This match was one of my favourites so far. Besides the Kenny one, this is probably my favourite. Shock. Suzuki versus Bryan, like, it's probably most people's favorites, I can imagine, just for the legacy of both wrestlers. I've thoroughly enjoyed this one. I think this is, again, I just feel like I'm just repeating myself, but this one was fun. I thought everything about it was just great. Have you seen this match? What do you think? And honestly, please talk and just let me know about Suzuki, because I need to know what your people's opinions are and just more stuff about this man, because I am enamored.